name is Jamin Gurker. I'm your first friend in Alaska, and luckily for you, I'm also an associate real estate broker, and today I'm here to talk about the pros and cons of the different seasons while you're living in Alaska. Because yes, believe it or not, there are pros and there are cons to every season of the year. Before we do that though, do make sure you give this video a like, subscribe, and do all that good stuff. And without further ado, let's jump into it. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and start with one of the funnest seasons right off the bat, and that is summer. So let's go with the pros first. Number one, ton of sunlight. Okay, and after the winter months, having a lot of sunlight is really going to be really nice. It's going to be a lot warmer. It's green. It's beautiful. You can get out and do like the four-wheeling, the hiking, the camping, the hunting, the fishing, the paragliding, the everything that you want to do. You can do that during the summertime. And for that reason, I mean, obviously, this is the time of year that most people are going to come up here and visit in Alaska. And it's that way, obviously, because it's super beautiful and it's a summer that really makes Alaska a destination location for a lot of people. All right, so those are some of the pros. Now let's talk about the cons of the summertime. So number one, there's going to be a lot of people, which, you know, that should not come as a surprise. You know, it's really unrealistic to think that an entire state and wilderness was built solely for your enjoyment. So expect there to be a lot of people during the summertime. There's going to be a lot of tourists, and some locals will get annoyed with having a lot of people show up. And it's like, well, get used to it, guys. That's kind of one of the big legs to our economy. So, you know, be nice, roll out the red carpet and sing Be Our Guest, because that's really important for us. Also, I mentioned sunlight being a real pro. It can also be a con though, because some people really do struggle with sleeping during the summertime, regardless if they have the blackout blinds or not. Sometimes it's just light outside and your brain knows that it's light outside regardless how many blackout shades you have. And it's just going to be something you have to kind of get used to. I don't know, take melatonin or maybe some other things to maybe help you to sleep. I don't know, consult your physician, all that good stuff. See if melatonin or some medication is going to help you sleep better. But there are things you can take to help you sleep, and sometimes your brain is just not going to have it, and obviously not having a lot of sleep can impact you in a lot of ways. Also, something to keep in mind, you have a lot of tourists that are flooding into a lot of these small Alaska towns, which great for the economy. And you can also expect the rates for everything in that little town to go up. So if you have any small towns you like to go visit in Alaska and you live here, you can expect to see like the summer rates happen where suddenly the price of everything just jumps through the roof. I mean, I saw this even during COVID, where it was like June and like nobody was out doing anything because everyone was on lockdown across the country. We were given a little bit more freedom up here in Alaska. I went down to Seward and ghost town. Nobody there. Usually it's packed. Nobody there. Go to a hotel and they're still trying to charge me like the summer rates as though like the town is just flooded. And I was, yeah, that was a little annoying. It was like, you know what? I'm not going to kick them while they're down, but no, this is complete bogus. So yes, expect to spend more during the summertime if you're wanting to go to some of these small towns. Another reason that you might not like the summer very much in Alaska is you don't work, but you endure the months of winter to get to summer. And then when summer's here, you do not want to go anywhere. And it feels sacrilegious if you need to leave the state for some reason, because those are precious days and precious weeks that you've kind of paid the price for during winter in order to experience summer. And now you're going to go out of state. And for that reason, you usually just don't want to leave during the summertime. And if you do, like you're gonna do so kind of begrudgingly. Last but not least, one of the biggest cons of summer is that it is short. Usually we're talking about June to September, so not talking a big window here. It's enough for you to get out and enjoy things and, you know, have a great time and everything. But relatively speaking, it is pretty short when it's actually full on summer. All right, moving on here, we're gonna go to fall season. Now, fall is actually one of my favorite times of years up here. And that's because the foliage is absolutely beautiful. If you drive up near Sutton, like that entire road getting out there during the fall season, forget about it. It is incredible. Like the foliage, I maybe don't put it up against like some of the states up in New York and the Northeast, but it's pretty dadgum close to just how beautiful the foliage is up here during the fall season. I mean, another big pro during the season, you've got moose season, so that's really good. And also this is blueberry picking season, so if you're picking blueberries and trying to harvest as many of those as you possibly can, so you have freshly grown and harvested blueberries from Alaska in the freezer, then this is going to be a great time of year for you. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about some of the cons here. One of the biggest ones is going to be around this time of year, everyone's gearing up for winter. Okay, so they're switching their gear over, and if you're trying to get studs and tires and stuff like that, it can get a little chaotic when you're have a lot of people trying to get their stuff switched over. So for that reason, it can be a little chaotic, not the end of the world, but that's definitely something to be aware of. Also, fall just doesn't feel like it lasts very long up here in Alaska. Like really, real and true fall, I'd say maybe a month up here, and that's really about it. Like usually it's a couple of weeks, if we're being honest, but I'd say upwards of a month for kind of the fall season here. Also, you are getting into the later time of the year, and it can be kind of wet and gloomy around the fall season as well, which after the bright summer days, that's not necessarily unwelcome 100%, but it can kind of put a damper on the party. Last but not least, having early snow is not particularly uncommon in Alaska during the fall season. So, you can be holding on to the summer season, the fall season, but that early snow hits you and it's like, okay, time of death, September 21st. And it's like, we're officially done. There's the first snow. Let's go and take a break here real quick. For those of you moving up here, I do have a relocation guide for those of you considering making that jump and who want to have as much information about living up here as you possibly can. So to get your own copy of that, feel free to go to my website. A link for that is in the description section down below. Register and put relocation guide in the comment section so I know what to send you. Also, and this is just something I have to put out here as a PSA, I make my bread and butter off of actually helping people buy and sell real estate. So if you were considering making a move up here, then do feel free to reach out to me. I am not too busy. I know you guys see a lot of content from me, and some folks really think that because I have a lot of videos and have a lot of podcasts that I must be too busy. I always have time to help people who are making a move up here because real estate is actually my full-time job. Okay, so got to say that. Without further ado, let's go and finish up today's video. All right, moving along in the season here, let's talk about winter. So the pros of winter is that your activities we'll say completely changes overnight. Like you had all those activities during the summertime, the four-wheeling, the surfing, the hiking, like all these different things you could really only do during the summertime, and that's great. But once winter gets here, all those activities change. You go from hiking and camping and all that to, snowshoeing, ice skating, snow machining. You can still do hiking up here for sure during the wintertime. It definitely is different, and you have to be a little bit more strategic about it. You can't just take off after work and not have a plan. You gotta have a little bit of a plan during the wintertime if you're gonna go hiking. But the activities you do are drastically different, and after months during the summer, it's kind of nice to get a complete reset and a complete change on the stuff that you can do. During the wintertime as well, there's usually not as many people and not as many tourists in Alaska as there was during the summertime. Unless you go to obviously the resorts for Alyeska and skiing, snowboarding, all that good stuff. But usually it's just not going to be very, very tourist dense in Alaska during the summertime. And for some people, that's really what they want, kind of get away from people a little bit. And if you live in one of those small towns, you probably look forward to winter for that reason. One of the biggest perks of the wintertime is going to be that you actually get pretty easy access to the northern lights. Like I can see the northern lights from the town that I live in with the lights, the street lights and everything on just right outside my window. So northern lights are usually pretty easy to see for a lot of people. It's a bucket list thing for them to see the northern lights at least once in their life. And you can see them pretty easily just without a whole lot of effort. If you want to go up to Fairbanks and see absolutely awe-inspiring northern lights quality, then that's going to be a great place to do it. If you're just trying to see them though, you can usually just see them outside your window. really from anywhere in South Central Alaska at some point during the wintertime. And also kind of talking about the northern lights and darkness a little bit. It is a little bit easier to sleep during the winter than it is during the summertime. So if you're trying to catch up on some sleep, then that's going to be the time to do it. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about the cons of winter, which I know for a lot of people, that's usually one of the biggest concerns that they're thinking about moving to Alaska. So let's talk about it. Number one biggest con is going to be seasonal affectiveness disorder. Now, what this means is it's dark a lot during the wintertime. You don't have that exposure to the sun, and that does a lot of things like internally for your cognitive health and the psychology and the physiology of your body. And when you don't have that sun exposure, some people can get seasonal affectiveness disorder, which there's not a whole lot of warning to it. You can't really take tests that I'm aware of to see if you're going to be, get SAD, seasonal affectiveness disorder. You just kind of wake up one day and you're sad and depressed, and that's pretty much it. So that's just something you have to be aware of. There are things you can do to minimize it, like staying really plugged in with community and making sure that you are making sure you're staying engaged and staying busy, because you don't really want to be idle during the winter time up here, so you got to stay engaged. Additionally, it can get kind of cold up here in Alaska. I'm not sure if you're aware of that or not. Now, in South Central Alaska, it's not nearly as cold as what you get in the interior near like Fairbanks and Talkeetna, Willow. Well, Willow is kind of still South Central, but once you start getting more to the interior, like Fairbanks, like you get like that -70, -50, something like that. That's pretty extreme. In South Central, coldest I remember it being recently was like -20, which is still pretty cold, but still nowhere near what it is when you're coming in from the interior. Another big con for a lot of people, and this is really a concern for some folks when they're moving up here, is that some of the roads can be a little bit more difficult to use during the wintertime. And this is kind of rare, but sometimes it happens where you have so much snow that you had like a 3-lane road before, and now it's like a 2-lane road because there's so much snow piled up on the side, and there's, you can't remove it until it like melts in the spring. So that's something that can happen. Also, just it can be icy, and if somebody gets into a wreck, then that slows everybody down. I haven't found this to be too big of a factor for me during the wintertime. You just have to plan a little bit more time when you're getting somewhere, just so you can kind of take your time and not be a speed demon out on the road. Really be slow when you're braking, so don't have like a sudden stop out there. And also, if you have a car with like all the bells and whistles and a fancy brake system, don't assume everyone else around you has the same thing. So just because you've got a good brake system and you can stop on a dime doesn't mean everyone else can. So if you're one of those people and you just slam on the brakes and you stop, then don't be surprised when the person behind you can't stop as well. So that's the advice I'm going to give you. I'm just going to leave it on the table for you. All right, one of the last cons here is going to be the winter activities can be kind of expensive. Now, you can find some that are pretty inexpensive, like a pair of ice skates, usually going to run you $100, maybe a couple $100. And you obviously have a ton of fun with those, and you can go hiking, snowshoeing, stuff like that. That's pretty inexpensive. You really want to get into the Alaskan wilderness and experience it, though. Getting stuff like a snow machine is really what you're going to want to do, and that can get pretty expensive pretty quickly, even if you're just paying to like maintain the thing. So wintertime activities can be more expensive, not necessarily, but they can be. All right, last but not least, one of the biggest cons of winter is just it takes forever. It feels like the winter can last forever. Like usually you're starting around like the beginning of October, maybe end of October to about May. Yeah, we'll say about end of April, May, sometime around there is really where it starts letting up. So it's a big swath of time where it's going to be winter or winter light, like once you start transitioning into or out of the season. So winter definitely has a big mark up here in Alaska. All right, moving on in the seasons, we're going to go ahead and finish up with a season that we are currently in up here in Alaska as I record this in March, and that is spring. So what are the pros of spring? There really aren't any. Let's go ahead and get to the cons. It's dirty, it's muddy, you've got a ton of trash on the side of the road that's people have just been throwing stuff out their window their entire winter, and now it's all just coming to light. And so you have to have people out there to clean it. You've got a lot of animal feces that have been frozen for months and months and months, and now that's all thawing out, so that can kind of smell. And around this time of year, you can't really go do summer stuff just yet because it's still too cold, but you also can't do the winter stuff anymore either because it's too warm for that. So I know I kind of sound like Goldilocks, but it's not acceptable, is what I'm saying. I'm not sure why spring has such a good PR for being a great time of year, but no, it absolutely sucks up here in Alaska. So, thank you for watching. Hope this has been useful. If you have any seasons that you really enjoy, make sure you drop those down below. And if you have any pros and cons of your own, would love to hear them. So, again, thanks for watching. See you next time.